Oh no's, hellos, and welcome back to another top 10 videos, and today we'll be taking a look at top 10 torments. Oh yes, so this set is kind of interesting in the way it was designed. You had like a lot of cool mechanics like threshold, and some broken cards like we'll be talking about in this video. So, we'll be talking about the top 10 cards of Torment, and not Torment of Hailfire because, yeah, it's not that broken, but you'll see what we mean. But at number 10, we have Rancid Earth. So it's a 1 black for a sorcery, and it simply states destroy target land. So if this is at number 10, get ready for the rest of them because they're actually not going to be that bad. Okay, so I don't know, I chose this at number 10 because, you know, there's Sinkhole, but honestly, I can put this higher if it just wasn't like a sorcery, maybe an instant, but I don't know. Destroy target land, so it's basically Sinkhole, but if you can meet the threshold requirement, you can instead destroy that land, and Rancid Earth deals 1 damage to each creature in each player. Now this is good in a number of reasons, and this actually sees play in mono black land destruction decks and Pauper. So Pauper would use these type of effects to basically disrupt people and use like mono black control cards like Trittering Rats to basically control players like library, hand, or anything like that, and just try to get ahead of the game. So it's basically kind of like a tempo deck in a way. And Rancid Earth was one of the ways it could power out control over the opponent. Because a lot of creatures in that format were actually X1s, so this doesn't see play a lot of times, but sometimes it does, and it's really good if you can get that threshold off. So yeah, it's a pretty neat card, but it's also very, very stupid to some people, because some people don't like people destroying lands, so yeah, don't do that. Just don't do that. Alright, at number 9, we have another black card, so we're getting on all the black cards. It's Slithery Stalker, and it's a 1 black for a Nightmare Horror. Ooh, and it has Swamp Block. Oh, I actually didn't know that. Okay. It's got my attention now. It's got Swamp Block. It's a badass. So when this guy comes into play, just remove a green or white creature an opponent controls from the game. And then when this leaves away, you can return it. So basically, it's an off-color exiler, which is kind of weird, not gonna lie. But I actually did see play in the old days of mono black aggro decks, because sometimes they could bring this into the sideboard against other aggro decks that were playing that thing. And it was actually good to have Swamp Block, because some of the decks actually splash black to get some of their creatures. Like Ebon of Night's Hand, So Yi, or whatever that guy was called. I don't even know. He's a badass. But yeah, this guy can take down those pesky green and white creatures, and you can keep swinging with your army of, well, I think in that case it was just knights, but there was other powerful black creatures as well. And yeah, this is a very slithery stalker, so I get why it was a slithery stalker. I don't know. I don't know why it's a slithery stalker. And the illustration is made by John Avon, so cool, I guess. Alright, and then number 8. Kind of the same card, but we have Faceless Butcher, which is a 2 black, so another black card. And yada yada yada, but this is even better. It removes any creature from the game. And it says, not an opponent, but any like target creature. So basically what you could do, and I used to like to do, is actually if you knew a board wipe was coming up, you can exile your own creature. Then if this gets destroyed, you get to just put it back out, and maybe you can get an extra ETB, who knows. So this actually did see main deck play in a lot of old mono black aggro decks, and it was probably 1 or 2 of, but it was still really good because of that basically remove ability. You got Ravenous Chupacabra, but I mean, this was basically the Ravenous Chupacabra of the old days. So, and black wasn't really a card to just, you know, exile stuff. So, giving it to a creature like this, yeah, not that good. Not that good. But hey, I mean, it's a card nevertheless, and it was a pretty good card back in the day. Alright, let's move on to number 7, because we're going to get into a lot more black cards. There's a lot of powerful black cards in this, I'm not going to lie. Because number 7 is the king of black cards, Cabal Coffers. Oh yes. Yes, so this is basically the Swamp King. So this basically makes your swamps tap for stupid amounts. So it's Cabal Coffers. I think everyone knows what this does. You just tap it for 2, and you can add black for each swamp you have that you control. Now, this also does work with Urborg, so if you have Urborg, you can also count this as a swamp and get even more benefits off of it. So yeah, pretty nice. This doesn't actually see any main play in any format besides Commander, but it is a Commander staple in black decks because it could just ramp you insane amounts of mana. So definitely put this in your Commander deck. It's a really good card. Adds a ton of mana, and you can ramp pretty easily with it. So I recommend picking up this card. It is expensive, but if you have the money, good card. Alright, and you know what else is a good card? And we're finally going to move it away from black. Number 6, Grim Lavamancer. So this is a red human wizard for red and exile. You tap and exile 2 cards from your graveyard, and it deals 2 damage to target creature or player, so any target. And yeah, this is played in burn decks in modern, and sometimes in historic, because now this is historic legal. Yes, I know, WotC just needs to stop doing that. So yeah, I mean, it's played in burn decks, and it's really good in burn decks because of that exile 2 cards from your graveyard ability. The only reason why it's good in modern is because there's a lot of fetch lands, and fetch lands are really particularly good with this because you can automatically just put this down turn 1, and then turn 2 you can use its ability. So it's very nice for burn decks, especially Boros burn, as I like to call it, or any of those prowess decks in modern. Getting mixed up. It looks like a vengeance card, not gonna lie. Okay, so yeah, this card is kind of the homie for mono red decks. And yes, it's basically a shock on a stick, but if you're gonna get a shock on a stick like this, might as well take it. It's really nice. So yeah, and let's move on to my favorite in looking at lands. And number 5 is the Tainted lands. So there's like Tainted Field, there's Tainted Peat, there's a lot of Tainted lands. And I actually like these lands for a couple of reasons, is because it can add just regular generic mana, or it can add white and black mana with the price to it. So, I mean, either way, it's good in its own way. And I do like the Tainted Cycle. And I think the Tainted Cycle continues in another set, but it's just amazing what you can do with the mana, because it's just color fixing. So, and I like color fixing lands that kind of give you a restriction, but also give you a benefit, just adding regular mana. I really like those lands, and I put those lands in any one of my decks I can. So they're really good lands, really good. People underestimate them because but they're really good. Alright, and let's move on to number 4. And number 4, I think people like this in Get Rock, but it's Putrid Imp for 1 black, and it's a zombie imp, discard a card, and it gains flying until end of turn. But no one cares about that ability, they just care about it's a free discard outlet. Because if you get Threshold, Putrid Imp gets +1/+1 and can't block. But the +1/+1 is really good in this case. So this was actually used in Madness decks in Standard, in the old Standard I mean, so you can Madness your cards for free, and you can get really good benefits off of it. So that's why it was really good in Madness decks, because you could just discard it for free and have no drawback. So yeah, I mean, Madness was, some people thought it was bad, but it became good with just free discard outlets. So Yeah, and that's why Wizards probably stopped printing like discard outlets for like 1 black. So it's basically like free sacrifice outlets. It's pretty much the same thing. Never give anything for free now. So, and besides that, it's really good in Gitrog decks in Commander. Yee. So you can draw those cards, get some new ones. Pretty good. But yeah, besides that, it's just an imp boy. But we're gonna look at another cute boy, and number 3 is Basking Rootwalla. And this is actually a madness card that costs 0. You heard me right. 0 mana. So, why is this good though? Well, it's actually played in some legacy vintage decks, I think. I'm pretty sure last time I checked there were some decks including this because it's a free card, basically. I think I saw Hogak variants running this, and what that deck tries to do is discard a lot of cards like Hogak and Vengevine. So this is also a perfect way to get advantage off of it, and also stay away from some aggro decks that might try to hinder your strategy. So it's a good creature to keep it at bay. So think of it as a block cow, or block lizard in this case. And yeah, an unexpected small creature that barely did anything was really good because of its madness cost. So there was no drawback, and people could run it in discard decks. Heck, some even manaless dredge might run this. So pretty versatile card. Don't underestimate it. Now underestimate it in Commander because it's not that good. But nevertheless, I digress. Because at number 2 is another Dredgy Boy card. And it's Igrid. Oh yes. So it's 3 black for a horror with haste, and at the end of turn you have to sacrifice it. Okay. Alright, it's a bad card. Bad card. You picked a bad card. I'm sorry, DJ. But wait, there's more. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have Igrid, if Igrid is in your graveyard, you may remove a black creature card in your graveyard other than Igrid from the game. If you do, return Igrid to play. So the thing about this card, it was always basically coming out of the graveyard, and it was hard to kill. In the olden days of Magic, this was the most powerful reanimation card in the game because of how hard it was to kill, and it had haste, so every time it swung, it did a nutload of damage, and people can get like 4 Igrids in the deck. So think of this as kind of like Phoenix, but in the olden days. So yeah, it was a pretty good card, and it saw a decent amount of play for a while until, you know, those all vanished in the light. But there was a deck using Avatar of Woe, and this card in particular, do some nasty damage, man. Oh my gosh, was this deck amazing. But yeah, the olden days will be the olden days, but I think it's still a pretty good card to this day, and I think some variants in Vintage might play one, but honestly, Manaless Dredge, all it needs is 1 creature, and the game's over. Usually, it's that thing that does damage for each card in the graveyard, so yeah. Yeah, Manaless Dredge is a joke. It doesn't even use mana. Why even play the game? A robot can play that deck. But yet, another robot can play the number 1 card, Cabal or Ritual. So, seemingly a innocuous card. It's basically a dark ritual for 1 extra mana, but threshold, if you have 7 or more, you add 5. So why is this good, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you why it's good. This is played in a lot of legacy storm decks or Tinned Fins, and it's really good to accelerate your mana to basically Tendrils of Agony your opponent and win the game. So it's basically just a storm card, but kind of good because it can be better than Dark Ritual if you can get 7 or more cards in your graveyard, which is not that hard for Storm. So Storm had a really easy time because of Yawgmoth's Will and a bunch of other effects to get your Storm count really high. And yeah, it's just busted because you could produce so much mana and just win the game like that. So anyways, those are the top 10 Torment cards of the year. Yes, not of the year, of that decade, whatever. So yeah, and then next we'll be moving on to Judgment, which will be getting into more disgusting trash, but it'll be a little bit more tamer, hopefully. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye, and peace.